What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so man, I saw this late last night. I think I found out about this through a video from Ticket TV, and that is, of course, the Minnesota Timberwolves traded. It was actually a three-team trade, from what I've read, that involved the Minnesota Timberwolves, New York Knicks, and the Charlotte Hornets. And essentially, Karl-Anthony Towns was traded to the Knicks in exchange for Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and I think the Hornets got cash. Something like that from the Knicks. Maybe a future pick or something. I can't remember. I know it's definitely cash. So, look, I wish the best to Julius Randle. I wish the best to Dante DiVincenzo, who's from a Buck. And obviously, I wish the best to Karl-Anthony Towns. And I get the financial angle. I understand people will come in here and say, well, you know, the new CBA agreement, the Timberwolves didn't want to be boggled with a huge contract to a guy in Cat and not getting much in return, possibly, unless they win a championship, penalties, and all this stuff. I get all of that, man. I do. I get what you're saying. But as a fan, when I say fan, I'm not a Timberwolves fan, but just a fan of basketball. I would think that if you're a Timberwolves fan, you're looking at it from a competitive standpoint. It'd be one thing if the Timberwolves was some mediocre franchise, you know what I'm saying, barely getting to the play-in. You got this overpriced player who, you know what I'm saying, only playing 60 games a year and they never make the playoffs. Okay, then I get it. Let's start over. But you got a team right now that was within championship contention. Okay, they beat the defending champions, Denver Nuggets, and a large part of that was the defense played by Karl-Anthony Towns. Because I said this before, Joker's a great player, but a lot of his dominance stems from the fact that this league is overrun with stretch fours masquerading as fives. And when you only got but a handful of guys at the center position who can match up with you size for size, because Jokic is about 6'11 and a half and 280. Sometimes he gets down to 265, but he's 265 to 280, and a solid 280. When you're that big, there's very few players that can match up with you size for size. So Karl-Anthony Towns is what, 6'11 and probably like 260? Let me see. How big is Karl-Anthony Towns? Okay, so he's 7 feet. 7 feet tall and 250. Okay? So he can match up to Joker size for size. He was giving him problems. For all of the shit that he gets as far as not being a good defender, well, he definitely played some great defense in that series. And he's one of the main reasons, along with some timely shots, getting out of that shooting slump that he had been in for much of the playoffs. He was a big integral part of why they got to the conference finals. You know? So this trade doesn't make any sense to me. From a competitive standpoint, it doesn't. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I get the fact that Karl-Anthony Towns can sometimes be a little inconsistent. I get that. But you're trading a guy that could be inconsistent for a guy that was the epitome of inconsistency, especially in the postseason. Julius Randle, if I'm not mistaken, is in the top 5 all time, maybe higher, in turnovers per game in the postseason. Okay? He is not a good outside shooter. He's very inconsistent from that range. But yet, despite being inconsistent from outside, you know what I'm saying, he has a proficiency to take a lot of bad shots from outside. Though the Knicks do take a lot of outside shots. He's not as big as Karl-Anthony Towns. He's not as dynamic as Karl-Anthony Towns. And for all of the crap that Towns gets as a defender, Randle has a worse career defensive rating and a worse defensive rating last year on a defensive oriented team in the Knicks. Randle for his career is a 47% shooter. Karl-Anthony Towns for his career is a 52.4% career shooter. Julius Randle is a 33.3% career three-point shooter. Karl-Anthony Towns is a 39.8% career shooter from three-point range. And if I'm not mistaken, he's the only center to win a three-point contest. Julius Randle is a 74.8% career free throw shooter. Karl-Anthony Towns is an 83.9% career free throw shooter. And the last couple of years, he's been at 87%. Doesn't make any sense to me, man. Julius Randle averages 19.1 points, 9.4 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 0.7 steals, 0.4 blocks. Karl-Anthony Towns, for his career, 22.9 points, 10.8 rebounds, 3.2 assists, 0.8 steals, 1.3 blocks. I mean, Karl-Anthony Towns is just a more dynamic player in so many different ways, and he already has played under Tom Thibodeau. Now, this is the thing. I've been a little critical of Tom Thibodeau. Now you got your old guy back in Cat. You know what I'm saying? So the Knicks, who already had a hell of a run last year, have essentially replaced, what is it, Isaiah Hartenstein, I think his name was, or is, he departed the Knicks. You've essentially replaced him because the other center's out. I forget his name right now, but he's out until like the mid-year. So essentially you replace Hartenstein with Cat. They're gonna be a problem, man. And that team is a great defensive team who one of their weaknesses was sometimes they could have little offensive lulls. If if Jalen Brunson wasn't going on certain nights, because Jalen Brunson had to, as phenomenal as he was, especially after the All-Star break, that's a hell of a load for a point guard to have to handle and burden for a team. The average 28, 29 points per game for a season. After the All-Star break, I think he was averaging like 33, 34 points a game. That it looks great. Yeah, it's phenomenal to sometimes see a guy, from time to time go off for 50 points. But even Michael Jordan, if he had to average 37 points per game for his entire career, Jordan would have worn down. So to get a guy now like Cat, who has displayed that he can play superior defense when need be, so he need to be more consistent doing it on a larger stage, which will be New York. So he will be in a more pressurized situation. So we'll see if he can stand up to that. And also, to play defense, which he showed in that Jokic series. And really for much of last year, to be honest with you, Minnesota played a lot better team defense overall last year. But anyway, which kind of propped up Rudy. But yeah, if he can do that on a larger stage and larger sample size for like the entire season, at least just play good defense. He got to be all defense first team or defensive player of the year candidate, but just step that up. They're gonna be a problem, man. Also, you trade away Cat, but you keep Rudy Gobert. Now I suspect Rudy Gobert is really going to be exposed on defense. Because Cat sometimes was kind of cleaning up some stuff for Rudy. Because imagine if it was just Rudy primarily guarding Jokic last year, Denver would have won that series. At least in my opinion. But you keep Rudy, which was a horrible goddamn acquisition, to be honest with you. It was horrible. Because what was the point of you acquiring him? You acquired Rudy because supposedly he was going to be that piece that was going to make them a championship team. But then after 2 years, you give up. This general manager who took over in July for the Timberwolves, this was a horrible move in my opinion. And Dante DiVincenzo was flourishing in New York. Flourishing. Wasn't he like the most improved player? Or at least was a candidate? Let me see. No. He wasn't most improved, but he had to be a candidate for most improved player. Yeah, he went from averaging 7.2 points per game in 17 games with Milwaukee. Then I think he got traded to the Kings. Played 25 games there, averaged 10.3. Then he played for Golden State 2 years ago, averaged 9.4. And then last year he plays for the Knicks, averages 15.5. And then the playoffs last year for the Knicks, he averaged 17.8 and shot 42.5% from three-point range. I mean, he was balling. You're asking a lot of him now to replicate that in Minnesota, where I don't think his role will be the same. So this was a stupid-ass move, in my opinion, man. You can argue the money and the financial benefits, man, but fans don't want to hear that shit, bro. Timberwolves fans don't want to hear this. You could at least ran this shit back. Man, fuck it. You got to take a risk, man. Karl Towns is, 28? Come on, man. I can see he was 34 or 35. 28. That was stupid.